Hello, friends. The Great Pyramids have perplexed experts for centuries. Were they constructed with sheer manpower, lost technology, or something more mysterious? Let us uncover the truth. A world wonder was built in Egypt approximately 4,500 years ago, one that still amazes people today. The Great Pyramid at Giza. For more than 4,000 years, this was the world's tallest structure, standing at 147 meters. The pyramids were built with heavy stones that weighed an estimated 6 million tons. Compared to today's tallest structure, the Burj Khalifa, which weighs only 500,000 tons. The question that left people perplexed: how was it built? Cranes, bulldozers, and modern technology did not exist at the time, so much so that they did not even have wheels. Nonetheless, they erected a monument, which still stands. Can you imagine a structure standing for over 4,500 years, despite hot summers, storms, torrential rains, and weathering? There is no other surviving structure of this age and size. How did this become possible? Come, let us unravel the mystery of the pyramids in this video. The Great Pyramid is arguably the most enigmatic structure on the face of the earth. Built around 2,500 BC, it is the tallest structure on the earth for more than 3,500 years. Built as gargantuan tombs of shining white limestone, the pyramids are designed to hide the dark secrets of the dead. The Pharaoh Khufu is thought to have built the Great Pyramid of Giza around 2,560 BC. As we go back in time, it becomes more difficult to determine exactly what happened, when, and how. Pharaohs were ancient Egypt's monarchs. Pharaoh Khufu, the second monarch of the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom of Egypt, reigned for 23 years, 34 years or more than 60 years, according to various historians' estimates. The Pyramid of Giza, also known as the Pyramid of Khufu, is the tallest of the 3 pyramids built on the west bank of the River Nile. If you look at photos or videos of it, you'll notice that it's not the only one there. The Pyramid of Menkaure, built by Khafre, the son of Khufu, and the Pyramid of Khafre, the second largest pyramid in Egypt, are the only surviving monuments from the era. In addition to the Great Sphinx, several burial tombs, and smaller pyramids, there are said to be 118 pyramids of varying shapes and sizes. Many of them have been eroded by weathering, and only a few are in good condition. These 3 pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, were built for the same purpose as many other ancient monuments, to serve as tombs. The pharaohs are buried inside the pyramids, and the ancient Egyptians believed in the afterlife. They believed that life does not end with death, and that the soul of the deceased travels to the underworld to be judged by the gods. To prepare for the afterlife, the pharaohs would build tombs for themselves during their reigns, burying a large amount of food, treasures, jewelry, furniture, and clothing in the pyramid to be used in the afterlife. After death, their bodies were mummified and sealed in a wooden or stone sarcophagus. You may wonder how we know this is why the pyramids were built. There are 2 main reasons, friends. First, we have discovered scripts written on several other pyramids, which tell us about their customs. And second, the majority of historical pyramids in Egypt and Sudan have been used as tombs. However, no substantial evidence was found in the Great Pyramid of Giza, prompting people to develop their own alternative theories. When archaeologists entered the Great Pyramid, they discovered 3 relics and an empty sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is believed to be Khufu's, and the treasures that must have surrounded it are thought to have been looted before the archaeologists arrived. Those who disagree with this have proposed bizarre alternative theories, including the idea that the Great Pyramid was a power plant capable of producing electricity. People who believe this claim that the ancient Egyptians were very technologically advanced and had already learned how to harness electricity, and they present some of the ancient artwork as evidence for this theory. Such artworks have been discovered on the walls of some ancient Egyptian temples, which are used to back up the claims that they were building a light bulb. They say that the Egyptians invented it, but the technology was later lost. As I've previously stated, conspiracy theories are created when there is a lack of substantial evidence in a matter. However, The conspiracy theories are frequently so bizarre that they defy logic. If light bulbs existed in ancient Egypt, why haven't we found any proof? In reality, this artwork depicts an Egyptian mythological story. Another popular theory, proposed by American politician Ben Carson in 1998, holds that the pyramid served as a granary to store crops. According to his personal theory, the pyramids were constructed by Jesus Christ's father. My personal theory is that Joseph built the pyramids in order to store grains. Now, all the archaeologists think that they were made by pharaohs, okay? Friends, the second major reason for the emergence of conspiracy theories is political appeasement of religious beliefs. Today, all historians agree that the Great Pyramid of Giza was built as a tomb. People used to believe that the larger the tomb, the more treasures and food it contained, the better the pharaoh's afterlife would be. Now we get to the most important question. How were these pyramids built? Honestly, this is the most mysterious aspect of the pyramids. How did the people construct a 147-meter-tall structure? They used massive rocks weighing anywhere from 2.5 tons to 80 tons. When there were no standard carving tools, each stone was carved with precision and consistency. How were the stones stacked when there were no wheels? All of this happened within 20 years. Friends, the Great Pyramid of Giza is said to have been constructed in 20 years. There are several theories about this, and I will not discuss bizarre conspiracy theories here. But before we get into the theories, let's look at some common misconceptions about the pyramids. Slave labor is depicted in films as being used to build the pyramids. Poor slaves forced to work here all day while being brutally abused and whipped by their supervisors. You've probably seen this in a film or two. For a long time, people believed that slaves had built the pyramids. Herodotus, a Greek historian from the 5th century BC, was the first to suggest that slaves built the pyramids. But we now know that this is false. The people who built these pyramids were extremely skilled workers. They were not starved or abused. Instead, they were given an abundance of food. They were fed so well that they were stronger and healthier than the average Egyptian citizen at the time. They lived in cities nearby the construction site. Throughout the seasons, they received support from a variety of communities. Farmers, for example, would work on construction in their spare time when they weren't actively engaged in their fields. In a way, the kingdom's citizens were united in their desire for the national project to succeed. They were extremely loyal to their pharaoh. Its construction involved between 20,000 and 30,000 workers working 10 hours per day. Approximately 5.5 million tons of limestone, 8,000 tons of granite, and 500,000 tons of mortar were utilized. The majority of these materials were sourced from nearby areas. They were most likely brought in from southern Egypt, which is approximately 800 kilometers away from the site. The question arises, how were these rocks cut? Copper was the most commonly used metal at the time, and the tools were made of it. Dolerite was used to break up the harder granite rocks. They used some novel methods. For example, find cracks and holes in the rocks and insert wooden wedges soaked in water into those cracks. As the rocks absorbed the water, the wedges expanded and the rock broke apart. Now, how were these stones moved? Back then, carts did not have wheels. There was no vehicle with wheels that they could load with stones and easily transport to the site. A plausible theory is that they built rafts that floated down the river to transport the stones from the quarries. Once at the pyramids, the stones were stacked on top of each other with sledges on wet ground. This is an intriguing theory discovered recently in a study conducted in 2014. This painting, discovered at Jehutihotep's tomb, serves as the basis for this theory. This is a later tomb, built around 1900 BC. This painting depicts 170 people pulling a statue on a sledge. Ropes were used to pull this massive statue. If you look closely at the painting, you can see a man pouring water on the sand in front of the statue. Initially, archaeologists thought this was part of the ritual, possibly a tradition of pouring water before the sled. When physicist Daniel Bohn and his team tested this, they discovered that adding a certain amount of water to the sand reduces friction between the ground and the object being pulled. This is a specific ratio, about 2% to 5% water in the sand. It makes it easier to pull objects through wet sand. Once we've established this, the next question is how the stones were stacked on top of each other. How were these heavy stones lifted without heavy machinery? Normally, a system of pulleys can be used to lift them, but, as I previously stated, wheels as we know them did not exist in Egypt during the 4th dynasty. It existed only for pottery. Friends, they had created an efficient ramp system. In 2015, English and French archaeologists discovered a 4,500-year-old wooden ramp in a quarry. Scholars believe that this is how a ramp would have been built, with a straight slope from the ground to the top. To move the stones up the slope, they built a system of wooden pillars on the sides of the slopes. They then used the ropes around the pillars to pull up the stones, as you can see from the artwork on the screen. This was proposed by physicist Joseph West in 2014. According to this theory, after completing one level of the pyramid, they would have made a new slope. To ensure that the slope's angle wasn't too steep, they would have created a long slope. By creating a long slope, the steepness of the slope could be reduced. Another theory suggests that they may have used levers to stack the stones on top of one another. Check out how it works in this drawing. Essentially, they would need to take a middle point that was higher. A long pole would be placed atop it. With weight on the opposite side of the pole, it would then be easier to lift, turn, and position the stone as intended. Scholars believe that a comparable system, known as shaduf, existed in Egypt for millennia. They used the same mechanism to extract water from the Nile, to irrigate their fields. These theories seem fascinating. However, the inconsistency occurs in the form of construction time. We know that the pyramid was completed in 20 years. If 20,000 people transported each stone in this manner, a stone must be placed every 3 minutes every day of the year. It seems unlikely that they would have worked so quickly. Friends, this is why it remains a mystery to this day. Both hypotheses sound reasonable. However, they do not fully explain what had happened exactly. We do know that the layers at the bottom were assembled without mortar. Then mortar was applied to the layers on top. This increases the stability of a structure. This explains why, for thousands of years, despite several earthquakes, the Great Pyramid of Giza remains standing. There is also a mystery surrounding the mortar. Although scientists understand the chemistry of the mortar used, they have been unable to recreate it. Finally, the last step in construction was the pyramid's outermost layer. It was made from fine, whitish limestone. It implied that when sunlight fell on it, these pyramids would emit a brilliant white light. This was lost for thousands of years. The outermost layers have worn away from the pyramids of Khufu and Menkaure. But in the Pyramid of Khafre, you can see a portion of the layer at the top. Moving on from the construction and design of the pyramids, it is utterly fascinating. Did you know that the pyramids are designed so that what are the exact directions for north, east, south, and west? The error here is minute, a 1/15th degree error. These are thought to accurately point in the 4 directions. How could this be? There was no compass then. No modern technology such as GPS. Once again, researchers attempted to provide theoretical explanations about the Egyptians' ability to achieve such high levels of precision. A popular theory is to follow the autumn equinox, when the tilt of the earth causes day and night to be equal. The shadow on the ground points straight east and west. Using this method, the level of error in the calculations of the pyramid, the shadows would have the same degree of error. On the autumn equinox. The second theory is based on constellations. The stars in the sky were utilized. The Egyptians aligned their designs. In 1989, Robert Bauval, an author and Egyptologist enthusiast, came up with the Orion correlation theory. He claimed that the 3 pyramids of Giza, they were aligned similarly to the 3 stars of Orion's belt. He believed that the alignment was intentional, and that the ancient Egyptians understood astronomy. They planned to track and study the stars at night. As a result, they harvested different crops at specific times. Historians believe this is a fringe theory. Fringe refers to something that is not mainstream. Some arguments against this theory: the 3 pyramids were not planned at the same time. They were not built concurrently. Astronomers tested this theory in 1999, Studying the pyramids in relation to the stars in Orion's belt, it was discovered that the pyramids do not perfectly align with it. The fact is that the constellation has shifted slightly over thousands of years. Back then, the stars were not aligned in the same location as they are today. It was important to discuss this theory because it is a classic case. Humans try to find patterns even when there are none. When we don't have concrete proof for something, when we don't have a clear explanation, we create our ideas. And if we can find a link somewhere, we believe it is true. If you take the same thing to the next level, exaggerate it slightly, you'll have bizarre theories. Some people believe the pyramids were built by aliens because they believe humans were incapable of creating this. Such theories, in my opinion, violate the fundamental principles of scientific thinking. This is the shortcut method of coming up with an answer. When we can't find any, it is better to acknowledge the facts that we already know, and then clearly state what we do not know, so that the next generation of archaeologists and historians can conduct research on them and discover the entire solution or explanation. Thank you so much.